Hey guys, it's Tobin. Thanks for checking out the channel. Really appreciate if you guys could subscribe here. Also subscribe to the Tobin and Leroy show, which you can watch every single day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every single weekday. Let me not overshoot it. But you guys can watch us every single weekday for 4 hours a day on the WQAM YouTube page. The channel, Miami 56 WQAM. Always put it in the description. You can watch my new project, Game Day Uncensored. We will do your Dolphins pregame countdown. Myself, Omar Kelly, and my guy Alejandro Solana. We are there from noon to 4 this Saturday, so I hope you guys can gather around the YouTube fire and catch us there. Big news out of Dolphins camp today was, confirmation from Mike McDaniel that Christian Wilkins is not participating in team drills. Now, this was something that was kind of observed by reporters. Omar was actually the one who was like, he told me about this when we were doing the show. He goes, yeah, you notice how Christian Wilkins is not doing team drills? Because there were times where he was just wrecking practice and he was killing fools and he was just destroying the offensive line. And for all intents and purposes, was probably destroying Liam Eichenberg's confidence. But he was letting me know, I don't know, keep an eye on it. And then, all of a sudden the confirmation is out there that he is doing the most polite version of a holdout hold-in that he can for his new contract. Christian Wilkins, of course, came out about, 2 weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half ago, whatever it was. It was after the Dolphins scrimmage, and he had let people know that, he believes he deserves his new contract. It's really the only lingering piece of drama that's left for the Miami Dolphins. There are other guys that want to get paid. Zach Sealer, Connor Williams, but this guy is a star that isn't paid. All respect. I'm a big Zach Sealer I'm a big fan. You guys know I love Zach Sealer. The guy's an absolute monster. But Connor Williams, I was like making fun of that. Hold on, I'm like, Connor Williams, like, dude, you became a center 3 seconds ago. What are we talking about here? They invented you doing this, and now all of a sudden you're gonna have a stink during minicamp. So I'm not always like, this guy has to get paid. This guy, everybody's going to get. I want everybody to get paid. I don't want anybody not being happy. But Christian Wilkins is such an interesting case because he really is the heartbeat of the team, right? Like, he is the guy that brings the energy. He feels like he's the engine of the defense, and nearly had 100 tackles from his position last year, which is insane. And so while I know people will immediately go to the sack numbers not being very impressive. I think it was 3.5 last year. That was even less than the year before. The type of energy this guy plays with, the type of demonic energy that he comes with, the how much people hate playing him. Like, you think of Josh Allen, probably taking a low blow from Christian. I don't know what he's doing in those dog piles, but I know that as he is put, he's a sick and twisted individual. Which you put on top of the fact that he's not only a menacing physical specimen, but you also then put on top of it, the man's favorite stuff is show tunes. Like, he will open Dolphins camp by playing Hamilton. This is the type of individual we have. This is a man who thinks different. This is a man who enjoys the theater, but also will probably grab your junk while he's at the bottom of a dog pile. You don't know where he's going to go. I mean, there's. Going back to his Clemson days, go look at some of the extracurriculars that Christian Wilkins will go to. And you want to have that guy, I think, playing at a premium, playing at his happiest. And now, especially that the Dalvin Cook thing isn't hanging over the Dolphins anymore, it really kind of feels like the last piece of fiscal business the Dolphins should really take care of. Here was Mike McDaniel today when asked about this from the media.
Christian's such a good player, such an important person in the locker room, who has made it clear that he feels that his play is deserving of a contract. We would agree, as the Miami Dolphins organization, henceforth we are in negotiations, and as a result, he's hasn't been participating in the team, and when he next participates, that'll be up to him.
So Mike McDaniel lets it be known that Christian Wilkins, they're negotiating. That's number one. That is the number one thing that comes out of it, right? They agree he deserves a contract. They're in the middle of negotiations. This is not business has been shut, and this is how he's letting his feelings be known. This is not this doesn't feel like a tumultuous piece of, doesn't feel like a bad standoff between the two organizations. It's not something that's uncommon. We saw this with Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard would come to camp when he was not happy with Byron Jones. He put on Instagram, I think that he, feels like he's been disrespected. I don't remember the exact verbiage of it, so I don't want to quote him, but made a stink on Instagram, let it be known, made it, I think, implied that he thought his time with the Dolphins was done. Eventually the deal got done, and Xavier Howard still a Miami Dolphin, and even put some word to this today where he was like, business is business, and that he wants guys to get their money. So Xavier Howard, he said, get your money, and I can't say nothing else. At the end of the day, you got to make sure that you're ready to play football no matter what you're going through. Some guys are just focused on getting paid and stuff like that. Then they forget that you still got to play football. If you get paid and you don't, you still got to perform. So you got to take care of it, be a pro, and I'm sure that he's going to do that because he is a pro. And I think that's the thing that I think everybody would take with this is that Christian Wilkins is a pro. Like, he comes with that energy every single practice that he does participate in. Mike McDaniel was just talking about this. If Christian Wilkins was coming into practice and was being a mope, then I would worry. So this is a guy that they almost need to harness in because of the ferocity he plays with. Will say mean things to his teammates in practice. Will start, at joint practices. My God, that guy, sure is just going to be an instigator at all points. So the fact that he's at this is not a huge red flag to me. I think it's fine. I think Christian Wilkins. You know what it also just kind of lets you know? This Vic Fangio comes out, right? Nothing pleases him. He's got like two guys on the team, at least on the initial week into training camp, that he was pleased with. And Christian Wilkins, he was fawning over Christian Wilkins. Couldn't say enough nice things about Christian Wilkins. So if Fangs is sitting here and he's happy with Christian Wilkins and knows that he is, as he said, one of the elite players in this league, I don't think you should have a concern with it. It's just it's a question if the Dolphins do get it done because, look, this is still up in the air. He saw a lot of his peers get big money during the offseason. I get the point of, like, he's not a QB wrecker. He's not a guy that has, sacked a lot of quarterbacks, has not put a ton of QBs on their ass like the other guys have. But you also don't know if, like, that's a product of this defense and the guys that were calling the plays of it. Like, did they have a guy that was in over his head? Because I felt like last year almost all of it was just kind of coming off of effort and just tenacity and just go wreck shop like he can. And now it feels like you have an actual elite defensive guru who you can mold with it, and he thinks is better than he expected. So maybe the results will be better than expected. The other thing is, like, it just feels like a piece of business you really want to take care of because assuming. I'm going to try not to do the buzz thing that everybody says, but let's just say Tua has a good year. That's going to be the big thing hanging over next year is going to be Tua's contract. So, yeah, I think for them it's like a standpoint of try and get this thing over the finish line, and then you really have nothing left to worry about going into this year other than performing. Because with Dalvin Cook officially becoming a Jet, I don't know, what are you squirreling stuff away for? And at that point, I would try and make my captain, my defensive menace up front. I would try and make him happy. Here's a little bit more McCoachin.
Are you comfortable with that
plan? Every player is, it's like a snowflake, I would say. Unique to itself, so I'm comfortable with the situation as it stands. Christian and I are in constant communication, and this is part of the business that a lot of teams are dealing with.
Which, if first of all, this hell of an analogy. All players, it's like a snowflake. They're unique. If anybody is unique, it is Christian Wilkins. You think about just in all of that encapsulates his Christian Wilkins essence that he is. I also think that Mike McDaniel does like Christian Wilkins. I think he likes the way that he goes about football and brings everything that he does to the table. And so I think that, yeah, there are players who maybe get some favoritism, maybe aren't looked upon as harshly. And I think that for the fan base, it's not like he didn't show up to camp. It's not like he's been away. It's not like we haven't seen the type of impact already in camp. It's not even like he hasn't practiced in camp. I mean, he has. And now, okay, let's get to the finish line. How much more prep does he need? Going into the year that he is, the experience that he has, all of that stuff. What is, what is left to prove other than I feel like I proved I deserve my money, and let's see if this thing gets done. But I Chris Greer's there in Houston too. I don't know if I don't think negotiations are happening literally right there on the field. But even if Christian Wilkins doesn't practice tomorrow, and if Christian Wilkins doesn't play in the preseason game, and this does bleed into, the last week, you think about you still have a last week, then you have 2 more weeks to prep for the regular season. I mean, for a guy of his, there's really a lot of time. This is not something that feels like it's of a dire consequence. It also doesn't even feel like maybe what the Cowboys are going through on the other side of the football with Zach Martin, because you got to keep your QB protected. Like, Chris, you already know what he could do against this offensive line. You probably know what he can do against most offensive lines and run games and what he's capable of. There's nothing to prove for him. And I think that's where he kind of puts it out of. There's nothing here. There's nothing here to prove. And I think the thing that is interesting with the Dolphins, the one thing that I do think that players will keep an eye on with them is because they have had the message that they want to take care of him this entire time. They've do-si-doed around some of these guys before. But with Christian, like even right out of the gate, Chris Greer was like, yeah, when he had to kind of take things with a finer approach with even the Tua fifth-year option, with Christian, he was pretty open of like, yeah, we want to take care of Christian. Remember, Christian's like, that's one of his guys. He thought was going to be the anchor of this whole rebuild. And he's done what they hoped for and has gotten better every single year and brings the type of ferocity and energy that they hope. So what will it say if they don't take care of him? Does that have a trickle down on everybody else? Because, you had to pay big money to Tyreek Hill. You did pay big money to Bradley Chubb, outside guys. And I get, Tyreek Hill is one of the best players in the league. But, Bradley Chubb is one I would look at and be like, man, Bradley Chubb, he wasn't even a Dolphin. You took care of him like that on a trade. And Christian Wilkins has been here. And, I just think that that's an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on is how they go about keeping their draft picks and the guys that they had. Because that's the one thing with having a lot of high draft picks on a rebuild on the back end of it. You do have to pay them. And the whole point is you'll get some cheap years. You'll get some years where you can get them under the cap, but you sped up on the process of some of them because you used your first round picks and you decided to give $100 million contracts to essentially near to be free agents. And you tried to speed up the rebuild process. Nothing wrong with that. But now that you are at this point with another guy, what will it look like when it comes to actually taking care of your own hometown drafted guys? It's a fascinating thing to see, but it still feels like the most cordial it could be. I wouldn't even put this under the category of making a stink for the Dolphins. But it will be interesting to note if this does actually get solved anytime soon.